Jasper officials have made a new discovery about the city's economic future. More on what they found, plus, could Indiana be moving towards being two states from an economic standpoint? And Carla Striegel winner and Debbie Steinkamp discuss prescription drug take-back day tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. Tonight we bring you a new twist that Jasper City officials have found about their economic future. Last night, the Jasper City Council learned that there are actually more jobs available at some companies within the city than what they originally had thought. Mayor Terry Seitz says there are roughly 60 to 70 full-time jobs that were open among the companies that had their abatements reviewed last night, along with another couple of dozen part-time and temporary jobs. With this news, Seitz says the city and the county's ability to attract people to fill the jobs becomes even more important.
Our abatement procedure, the annual review with the companies, is a microcosm of what's happening in this market, in the fact that we have a very healthy employment base. We lack the people to fill them. There's not easy answers for that, and some of the folks that are left to fill the jobs are struggling to stay in those jobs for whatever reason, and we have turnover.
Seitz says several of the companies are now running behind on hiring employees as there simply aren't enough people. On a related note, Du Bois Strong President Ed Cole said during yesterday's luncheon that local leaders will have to get creative in finding workers to fill the available jobs.
The housing study is really the thing that we feel is a key driver, but we also, when we hired a part-time marketing person, and we want to take this housing study, get that out to folks. We also want to begin to say, how do we tell our story beyond our area? You know, we want to talk about it regionally, we want to talk about it in Indiana, but we may have to say to ourselves, how do we tell this story about we've got more jobs than we have people to fill them in Kentucky, in Illinois, in Ohio, and some other places that we know may have higher unemployment than us.
Of course, several local companies have announced plans to hire more employees within the last year. These include Jasper Engines and Transmissions, who will be adding up to 100 new jobs in Du Bois County and 235 overall by 2017 as part of expanding into the former Jasper Plastics building on Power Drive. Master Brand Cabinets is also expanding at their Ferdinand plant. They plan to add up to 262 jobs by the end of next year. A pair of projects aimed at improving fire and police protections in Huntingburg will soon get underway. The city will begin expansions of the police station along 1st Street and the fire station along 11th Street within the next month or so. Mayor Denny Spinner says these projects are needed in order to keep up with the city's expansion.
The fire station at 11th Street, part of that, the reasoning behind that is our industrial park is growing, our residential area out there is growing, so we need to beef up our service in that area from a safety protection area, and that'll enable the fire department to expand and provide better service on the growing north side. The police station, we've grown the police force by 2 or 3 members in the last 2 years, so we're undersized as for housing all those individuals.
Work on the police station is expected to take somewhere around 6 months to complete. The police department will be housed in a temporary building while work is going on. That expansion will add on to the back of the building and bring it up to current law enforcement standards. Meanwhile, the fire station expansion is expected to more than double the size of the current building. That fire renovation is set to be done in September of this year. Spinner says these projects will come in several $100,000 under budget, and he says that will be beneficial to the city in other ways.
It leaves that money in that pot of money that we're looking at. A lot of the stellar projects are coming from the support from the TIF area, from the REDC. So freeing up that money allows us to look at other projects and continue down the road with those as well.
Jasper Lumber was awarded the contract to do both projects. The combined cost comes in at just under $1.8 million. A new learning grant for the Northeast Du Bois School Corporation will come in handy. Earlier this week, a group consisting of Corporation Superintendent Bill Hoaksong, Curriculum Director Kathy Clawwitter, Du Bois Middle School Principal Ryan Case, and Special Education Teacher Jennifer Wright gave their presentation to the school board about the grant. The corporation received the $86,000 digital learning grant last month from the Indiana Department of Education. Clawwitter says the district will use the money to hire a full-time technology assistant for the corporation. The district also plans to buy MacBook computers for its teachers and to bring in technology experts who will hold professional development sessions. Clawwitter says this will help teachers to be more involved in deciding the curriculum for students.
We want to see more digital curriculum developed by teachers. So this was the perfect time for us to request the resource to have teachers spend time across the summer in order to create their own curriculum.
Northeast DuBois was one of 19 districts that got the funding. 88 school districts in all applied for digital learning grants this year. And finally tonight, a retired Indiana University history professor says the Hoosier State is headed towards becoming two states, at least when it comes to keeping up with the times. During his speech at yesterday's DuBois Strong Annual Luncheon, Professor Emeritus of History James Madison laid out his theory that we may see two Indianas in the future. In his argument, Madison points out that he is already seeing the shift to two states. The first Indiana is doing quite well and has advanced deep into the 21st century. Madison says the other Indiana is not doing so well and is stuck in the 1970s way of thinking, which shows up in many small towns that are dying out. Madison says education is at the core of the state's problems. However, he says many around the state are starting to take notice.
We haven't had, I think, the kind of leadership we need and deserve for our kids, for public schools, K through 12, and universities. But I think there's a change out there in Indiana. Maybe I'm more hopeful than I ought to be, but I think a lot of Hoosiers are beginning to see the desperate need we have for better education.
Madison says the problems with leadership often begin at the polls as voter turnout remains low. However, he points out many Hoosiers don't really know what's going on in education, thus they don't turn out to vote on the issues. Madison says the solution is to have more engaged leaders.
Well, we need leadership from the State House. We need governors, state legislators that pay more attention to this. We also need leadership from the thriving communities, those places in central Indiana, especially Hamilton County, for example, that are doing very, very well. But the fact is, if the other Indiana is not doing well, it's going to come home to hurt the whole state, including people in Hamilton County.
Madison cited Hamilton County, among others in the Indianapolis area, as an example of a thriving community and one that is in the 21st century. He pointed to several counties here in southern Indiana as examples of areas that are still stuck in the 70s and thus are not thriving. Madison says from what he's seen, Jasper and DuBois County are on the right track when compared with the other areas.
I don't want to pose as a Jasper or DuBois County expert, but it's pretty clear that DuBois County is in the 21st century. That DuBois County has moved forward in a way that most places in southern Indiana or across the state have not yet done.
Madison has written several books on the subject, including his most recent release, Hoosiers, A History of Indiana. He presented a copy of that book to DuBois County Library Director Christine Golden as a gift to the library in place of accepting a speaker's fee from DuBois Strong. All right, coming up after the break, we'll squeeze in one more sunny day tomorrow before a washout on Saturday, and later, where you can go this weekend to drop off your old unwanted medications. We're back after this.